Okay, we are officially recording. What class number is this? Is this 3 or 4?
3.
3. Okay, so this is the best backup class ever. Number 3. I never get tired of saying that. I love that. So, okay, this is going to be a short class because, like I said, Paul and Kim wanted some extra time. And for that, I didn't really code anything. This is going to be more of a discussion. It's going to be very open-ended because I really kind of want to hear what you guys want to say. I'm always really, really polite like that when I'm being recorded. But first, so I'd like to start off this week. We're going to get off of the performance tuning and stuff that we did the last 2 times. And this time we're going to talk about a little bit more practical side of managing backups in your environment. And I think I need to take these books down a little bit because I'm cutting off some people's heads. They're really sharp books. There we go. Okay. So first, let's talk about restores. I'd like to do a little bit of a restore demo for you to kind of prove a point. For this, I think I'm going to need an assistant. Jen, why don't you come up here? Come up here. I need some help. Okay. Have a seat. You are my DBA.
Oh, shit. I mean, darn.
There are chitlins here.
Sorry. Well, he's got earphones. Yes!
Woohoo!
All right.
And he's listening to South Park, so yeah. Okay, you're my DBA. I am the CIO of your company.
A lot of trouble.
The SSIS class database right there that's on the screen,
Okay.
this one right here, has just failed for whatever reason.
Okay.
I need you to restore it. And this is our main database, and it has major uptime requirements, and it needs to be back online ASAP. Go.
Oh, okay. Where's the backup files?
You're the DBA. Don't ask me where your backup files are.
Okay.
You're costing me money. Move.
Okay, hang on a second.
I don't have all day. I
Oh,
need my database restored, and I need it restored now.
I'm looking for it, sir. I'm sorry. Hang on.
You don't even have the slightest clue where the files are? Come on. You're costing me money. Move.
Sorry. Okay,
I need this up now.
sorry.
The users are screaming. You're
Okay.
costing me money. Move.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't have time for this. Come on, let's go.
All right.
Oh, God, now she's crying. There's no crying. DBAs don't cry. What are you doing?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm looking
baseball.
for it.
I know. I resisted that line.
Come on.
I don't have time for this. Come on, move it.
I'm looking for it. Stop yelling at me.
Stop almost cursing. Either do it or don't.
Okay. I'm not trying to.
All right, you fail.
I don't.
You fail. Get out. You're fired. Yay! Let's hear it. Okay, I'm gonna let.
She gets a book.
Yeah, you get a book. Okay, I'll let you guys in on a little secret. She didn't cry nearly as much as she was supposed to.
Yeah.
But
You didn't yell.
I didn't yell. Well, I've got a mic on, right? Okay. I'm sorry? I can't hear her. Yeah, I know. Well, we never rehearse anything. Okay, so the point of all that was restoring. Okay? You hear about all the time when you have backups that you should test your restores. Everybody says that. You don't have a backup until you have a restore. But what about your restore method? How many of you have not only written down your restore method, but actually have something that will generate restore statements for you on any given database, on any given server, so that when you have a problem, you can just go hit go, and it'll either automatically restore it or it will print a restore statement that you can just copy and paste and then hit go yourself. Right? Okay, 1, maybe 2 of you, right? So the point of that was when you're building your backup routines, and it's really important to have a good backup routine, it's just as important to have a good restore routine. Okay? Have an SP in a central repo somewhere. This is how I do it. You have an SP in a central repo somewhere. This central repo has a table that has all of your servers and all of your databases and the backup locations, okay? When you write your SP, you type in very simple information, right? You can type in the server name and the database name and then hit go, and it'll go out, it'll find the latest, it'll search in that table, it'll find where the backup's supposed to be, it'll go out, it'll find the latest backup, and it'll roll through all the logs and build you a restore statement that you can then copy in and paste in the window and then just hit go. Okay? When you restore a database, when's the last time any of you guys restored a database in production? Just shout it out. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, today? An hour ago, okay? Never, right. And when was that? Was it while you were sitting there going, okay, I'm going to restore a database? Or was it when you were in the shower that you got the call? When you were at a New Year's Eve party in the middle of the night? When you were driving your kids to school early in the morning and there's no way in the world you could do anything other than stop at a Starbucks and get your Wi-Fi and then restore the database and continue taking the kids to school, right? It never, ever, ever, ever happens when you're expecting it. It's like getting in a fight, right? If you knew you were going to get in a fight, you could do one of two things. You could buff up for the couple months and take karate beforehand, right? Or you could just avoid that situation altogether and do what it's going to take to avoid it, right? But it always happens when you're tripping along your merry way, doing your own little thing at the most inconvenient time possible. In the 15 years I've been a DBA, I think I've restored a database in the office during office hours during an outage like once maybe. The rest of the time has always been off-site and never, ever, ever when it was really, really practical, right? At the time that your CIO is screaming at you at 3 a.m. over the phone or on a conference call, and you've got 3,000 users down, and you're costing your company $100,000 an hour, is not the time to go, let me see, it's over here somewhere, and then fiddle with the command syntax and try to get that right? And try to remember, is this the database that I can use 3,000 buffers on, or 1,500 buffers, or 500 buffers? What is the threshold for this server to get this back up in time to meet my SLA, right? 3 a.m., after being drunk at a Christmas party is not the time to have to fiddle with all that stuff, right? So what you need something as simple as possible that you've thought out well in advance that's going to work the exact same way every single time, right? And it needs to be tested again and again and again. And it's not just for these kinds of restores. Remember what I said in the first class. Backup and restore is not pushing a .back file to a folder and then taking it off site to tape somewhere. Backup and restore is an entire life cycle. And part of that life cycle is dealing with devs, right? I do so many restores every week. I know I do the commands in my sleep, right? But none of them are disaster recovery. Can you restore this database over here to this dev box? Can you push, this copy of dev over to QA? Can you take this copy of QA and push it over here? Can you take this copy and just back it up in case we mess something up because we're about to do a benchmark? Can you do this? It's always these little tiny ancillary things, right? A restore command like this can really save you a lot of time when all you have to do is type in a server name in a database and hit go. If you get that kind of thing 30, 40 times a week, which isn't outside the realm of possibility. At my gig before last, I was there for 3 years, the only DBA. I must have restored 20, 30 boxes a week. Some of them had 200 databases on them. I had to restore a server that had 200 databases and put all 200 databases, the current copy of prod, onto a dev box every single week. So, go. Right? You take the 3 or 4 days it takes to perfect something like that and you say go, right? And that also gives you something else. You don't have to hit go now. You can give it to them. And now they can restore it anytime they want to, right? If they want a new copy of prod and it's something you've done for them a lot, why should I take the time out of my day to do it if they're going to need 2 copies of prod a day, 4 copies of prod a day because it's a dev box and they keep messing it up, right? Here, I've written you a routine. All you've got to do is just push go on this SP and it'll do the restore for you. Stay away from me. right? Unless something stupid happens, stay away from me, right? The reality is, and you saw it when she was up here, yeah, a good DBA will know where his backups are being kept, right? I know where my big backups are being kept. I can type a restore line. Well, actually, I still couldn't type a restore line right this second because it's got the data pinned to the file, so I'd still have to go look it up and all of that. But I know exactly where to go. But I manage upwards next to 600, 700 servers. I don't know where all of the backups are kept for every single one of those servers. I have no idea. Some of those servers, I've been at my current gig for almost a year now, and some of the servers I manage, I've never touched. They've never given me any problems. I've never gotten any alerts on them, so I've never actually logged into the box and looked around and done anything. So some of them, I have no idea what the backup situation looks like. That's just the cold hard fact of being in a huge environment, right? So you're not always going to know everything about every server that you manage. You're going to know the really big important ones, right? But something that lives over here and is fairly obscure, still fairly important to the company, but it's very low on your radar because it's never caused any problems before, right? In my last gig, I had an application that we used once a month to report stuff to Wall Street, and that was it. That box had to be up for 3 days every month. The rest of the time, I could do whatever I wanted with it. I had no idea where the backups were. I know they were going because I never got an alert. But if it failed during that 3 days, it has to be up, and it has to be up right now. If it failed after the 3 days, I got the rest of the month to get it back up, right? And I'm golden. So I just wanted to start off with that little restore speech. Wow, I'm already running low on time. Hey, are you guys getting your boxes booted up and just ready to just come over here and just do a switch over?
I'm second.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'll take 10 more minutes. Okay, now I want to talk about, I'm going to switch gears. Since I've only got 10 minutes, I want to jump down to something else. Okay, I want to skip that, and if I got time, I'll come back to it. Let's talk about bad things that you have to do to keep your environment running. I kind of thought of this one I know, right? Huh?
The dirty deeds.
The dirty deeds, that's right. And these day and age, they really are done dirt cheap. I put this little list together of things just because Paul was going to be here, because I know how strict he is on stuff like this, so I wanted to show him how cowboys do it in the real world. So things that you have to do in your environment to keep it up and running, because things aren't always perfect, right? You don't always get the uptime that you want. The uptime that companies say they want always comes in question when two things happen. When money is involved, when they find out how much it's going to cost, and when uptime is involved, right? So money is easy. What do I mean? What do I mean, though, when I say that when uptime is involved, right? Well, we've got an application that, say, has to have, that you have to be fully covered. You want log backups for everything. You want to be able to recover up to the most minute transactions possible, because if you have a failure, then that's the end of the line, right? But what if something happens and the log fills up and the application comes down, and you don't have enough backup space to take that big log backup? What do? You have to get the application back up and running because you're losing money, right? But at the same time, you also have, to take that log back up, right? So now you're in a situation where you've got to make a decision, right? Do I keep the company down long enough until I find space, or do I just get things back up and running and hope that nothing happens until my next full backup happens, right? Because I'm not necessarily going to be able to take a full backup right now if I break the log chain, because my normal backup routines will only hold so much. I mean, I've already decided I'm short on space, right? My normal backup routines will only hold so much. It can't take an out-of-cycle backup now and have enough space to take another one tonight. I don't have that kind of space, right? So even with compression. So these are the decisions that you have to make. Sometimes you have to decide whether you're going to break your log chain and get your company back up and running, or whether you're going to keep them down long enough to keep your log chain. And these are the times that companies have to decide what really is important to them. That's when I said that their recoverability comes in question when their uptime is in question, right? And remember in the first couple classes when we were talking about restoring the log backup to the null device, and I said I would talk about when that's handy. This is the kind of time when that's handy. Know that it's going to break your log chain. Okay, well, it's actually going to preserve your log chain, but there's no log backup there. So if you do a backup log to disk equals null, right? It's going to take the backup. It's going to throw it away. You're not going to have anything. That's going to accomplish two things. That's going to get your company back online because you took the log backup, and now you have space in your log to be able to do transactions, right? But more importantly, it's going to allow your further backup routines for the rest of the day to keep running without you getting errors for the rest of the day, right? You don't have to go in there and turn off your log backups. If you've got, if you've got 10 databases on that server, you can still back up the other ones. You won't be able to restore this one database, but you'll still be able to do all those others, and you won't have to turn off your routines. Does that make sense? Did I say that right? So, as far as I know, well, that's why I'm asking, right? Okay, you get a book for that. So, that's kind of the point, is I'm not advocating backing up a log to null, but I'm saying sometimes you have to do it in order to keep things running and to keep your routines from failing for the rest of the day. It's a win. I mean, you have no choice. You have no choice, right?
That's the equivalent to truncate only, right?
Well, truncate only doesn't exist anymore, and no, it's not. Truncate only, if you were still able to do with truncate only, right? And it kind of is. It's the same as putting it in simple mode and then back in full mode, right? But no, it's not the same thing, because that will actually break the log chain and your log backups will fail for the rest of the day. This one actually takes the log backup, it just doesn't keep the file. So internally it doesn't break your log chain, you just won't have a file associated with it. So physically your log chain is broken.
But if you go into simple mode and then back into full recovery, you don't actually go into full recovery until your first full backup, right? So that's what you're talking about. Your transaction logs will fail for the rest of the day.
Right. Right.
Because it's still
Right.
simple mode.
And you won't have the space. And I just said this is a situation where you won't have the space to take that out of cycle full backup again.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Something else you're going to be forced to do sometimes. Oh yeah, I like this one. You may have to delete yesterday's backup before you take today's backup. I hate even saying that out loud, right? I mean, that just scares the hell out of me. But sometimes you have to do it. I've got 3 servers at work now that I have to do that on. What can I do? I have no space for backups, right? And I barely have room for 1 day compressed. And that's, are you ready for this? On the same drive as the database. I know. I'm a cowboy. What can I say? No, but these are things you have to do sometimes, and they're not pretty. But as long as the business realizes that they're not protected against a disk failure or a server failure, the only thing they're protected against in a case like that really is one of the developers accidentally dropping a table or deleting too much data out of a table, something like that. That's the only thing you're protected against, is those oops errors, right? Not a...
Still working there?
I'm sorry?
Is Fred still working there?
Yeah. So you're not protected against the big disasters. But that's where the tiers come in. Didn't we talk about a couple classes ago about the SLA tiers? Right? And maybe that's one of your tiers for, say, your... one of your lower level SLA tiers, that you're not really concerned about recovering from a huge disaster. You keep everything locally, and you're only concerned with those logic type failures of somebody dropping something accidentally, or somebody updating an entire table accidentally, something like that, right? So maybe you put that as one of your things, because if you're space constrained, you're space constrained, right? And that's a very real concern. And don't think this only counts for production systems either, because dev systems are just as, if not more, well, I'm not going to say more important, but they're just as important as prod systems. How many guys here develop? Everybody, right? How many of you have? How many of you store your development code in your development database because it's data? They're SPs and they're views and whatnot, right? And sometimes you'll write part of an SP and you'll come back to it later. You'll change the logic. You'll finally get that one little piece working exactly the way you want to, right? And it's a dev database, so your team's working in it, right? Somebody in your team messes something up and says, oh, wait a minute, that one table I was working on, I like that other version better, and then comes and restores it from 3 days ago, and all of your work is lost, right? Because he's the only one on that box, right? And it's not malicious, he's just a moron, right? I mean, that's all there is to it. So when you're developing on a dev box and you're co-developing on a dev box, you've got to treat everybody like they're your enemy. Back your own stuff up, and if that means backing up a database to your own personal box, if it's small enough, then do that. If not, then back up the schema. Write something really cool in PowerShell, guys, right? And back up all of your code every single time. Develop locally and then only push it to that server when you get it what you want, right? And use your local box as a code repository, right? Use TFS. Use some kind of code repository, right? But that's also a form of backup, right? And it'll be a pain, but at least you'll have the stuff you need. You won't lose a week of work, half a week of work that you just finally got perfect and it was just luck of the draw. You happen to try one thing, you tried 5 things in a row and that last one did it. And you don't really remember which one that was, and then somebody restores over it and you're like, oh my God, what? I don't remember what I did, right? So now you've got to go try to find that magic bullet again, right? I've done that. So when you're on your dev systems, treat everybody like they're your enemy, and not including your dev team members, especially your dev team members, because they're not going to think about you when they need to restore something. They're going to consider their own code, and they're just going to restore, and they're not going to tell anybody, and you're going to be on there going, what the hell? It was working this morning. I just did it 3 hours ago before I went to lunch, right? What's wrong with it? So that's really all I have time for. I have some more, but that's really all I have time for. So I'll go ahead and cut out of here, and we'll make this a short one, and I'll try to make it up with some good code next time. I'll try to I'll code some of those repository pieces for you and show you what I'm talking about. I wanted to get into a conversation tonight about whether you should back up in PowerShell or T-SQL. But we'll save that for next time, and we'll set up a nice boxing ring in here, and we'll get proponents for each side, and we'll get ourselves a good fight going. Fair enough? All right, guys.